Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to All 24 News World News Program. Before we begin, the headlines. An extraordinary meeting of NATO took place in Brussels. Joe Biden attended his first NATO summit since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, promised Ukraine with more help. Long queues for humanitarian aid in devastated Mariupol have been captured. The images show Russian soldiers providing humanitarian aid to the residents of the southeastern Ukrainian city. And North Korea has confirmed that it has conducted a test of new powerful type of intercontinental ballistic missile. An extraordinary meeting of NATO took place in Brussels. Joe Biden attended his first NATO summit since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, promised Ukraine with more help. The alliance aims to strengthen its defensive system as it closes borders to Ukraine. Nabil Khazini.
As the conflict in Ukraine enters its second month, NATO, G7, and EU leaders met in Brussels in a show of unity between Western leaders.
NATO has never been more united than it is today.
On the table, assisting Ukraine and reinforcing NATO territories were the main goals. The alliance aims to reinforce its defense in the east and to assist Ukraine with military equipment.
And allies are deploying additional chemical and biological and nuclear defenses to reinforce our existing and new battle groups.
In the summit, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warned that the consequences would be catastrophic for Russian President Vladimir Putin if chemical weapons were used in Ukraine.
I think that if Putin were to engage in anything like that, the consequences would be very severe.
US President Joe Biden said his country will help Ukraine with the $1 billion of humanitarian aid. Joe Biden also announced new tougher sanctions will be imposed on Russia.
We're also announcing new sanctions of more than 400 individuals and entities in alignment with the European Union. More than 300 members of the Duma, oligarchs, and Russian defense companies that fuel the Russian war machine.
China was also on the side of the alliance. The Western alliance accused Beijing of helping Moscow politically. China didn't take too long to deny such accusations.
Accusing China of spreading false information about Ukraine is disinformation in itself. China has always made positive efforts to establish a ceasefire and end the war as soon as possible, to avoid a humanitarian crisis and to restore peace and stability in an objective and equitable manner.
This is the third NATO summit since the conflict in Ukraine began. NATO tries to find a breakthrough to the ongoing crisis and to defend its territories and to avoid an escalation of the conflict to other European countries.
US President Joe Biden will travel to a town near the Polish-Ukrainian border on Friday, trying to signal Western resolve against a Russian military operation. Biden is expected to meet American troops deployed on the east of Poland. Air Force One will jet into the eastern Polish town, bringing the US president less than 80 kilometers from the battlefield of Russian and Ukrainian armed forces. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged NATO to provide Kiev with unrestricted military aid a month after Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. He warned that Russia's special operation will not stop in Ukraine. Let's have a listen.
On February 24, I came to you with a perfectly clear and logical request to help close our skies in any format, protect our people from Russian bombs and missiles. We heard no response. Ukraine does not have powerful anti-missile weapons and has a much smaller fleet of aircrafts than Russia. Therefore, their advantage in the sky is similar to using weapons of massive destruction. You have at least 20,000 tanks. Ukraine has asked that 1% of all your tanks be given to us or sold. But we did not have a clear answer yet. The worst thing in war is not having clear answers to requests for help.
На запити про допомогу.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addresses the European Union, saying the sanctions came a bit late and that Russia is using phosphorus bombs. Zelensky added that women are raped, houses are looted, they destroy churches, all churches.
Ви застосували санкції.
You have applied sanctions. We're grateful to you. These are strong measures, but it's a bit late, because if they had been preventive, Russia would not have entered the war.
Війною, принаймні,
No one knows for sure. There was a chance.
принаймні був шанс.
Ukraine's navy claimed Thursday it had destroyed a Russian landing ship in Berdyansk. Videos showed fires and columns of smoke rising from a ship docked at the city's port located in the Azov Sea near the besieged port city of Mariupol. The port, which had recently been controlled by Russian forces with several Russian warships in dock, was rocked by a series of heavy explosions soon after dawn. The Russian military said the landing ship would be used for delivery of cargo and military equipment to Russian forces. Polish Prime Minister has called for imposing sanctions on Russian fossil fuels and barring Russian ships from European ports because Russia is committing a massacre in Ukraine. Matthews made the call on Thursday night and as concern grew over Russia's conduct of its special military operation in Ukraine. According to the governor of Kharkiv, at least 6 civilians were killed and 15 injured on Thursday in a Russian bombing which carried out long-range weapons. Marwa Belaiwar has more details in this report.
At least 6 civilians were killed and 15 injured on Thursday in a Russian bombing of the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. The governor of Kharkiv declared,
According to a preliminary report, 6 civilians were killed and 15 were injured and hospitalized.
the bombing carried out with long-range weapons hit a post office in the district of which local residents were receiving humanitarian aid. Kharkiv, the second city in the country with almost 1.5 million inhabitants before the Russian military operation, is located about 14 kilometers from the Russian border. The city has been the target of Russian bombardments that have destroyed nearly 1,000 buildings, most of them residential properties. Earlier, the government of Vladimir Putin assured that military forces has taken control of the city of Izium, located in the Kharkiv region. Russian news agency reported that Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov declared,
The Russian armed forces continue to carry out their tasks in the special military operation. We have completely taken control of the city of Izium.
The Russian army attacked several Ukrainian military targets with long-range missiles on Wednesday afternoon and night, causing the destruction of 13 rocket launchers in the city of Danilovka, located south of the capital, Kiev.
Long queues for humanitarian aid in devastated Mariupol have been captured. The images show Russian soldiers providing humanitarian aid to the residents of the southeastern Ukrainian city, which has been heavily damaged after prolonged bombardment. Ukrainian officials say civilians trapped in Mariupol, which is normally home to about 400,000 people, face a desperate plight without access to food, water, power, or heat, while the Kremlin denies targeting civilians. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian refugees have managed to escape the besieged port city of Mariupol via humanitarian corridor to the city of Zaporizhia, but faced more Russian shelling after arriving at their destination. Hosam Burkan has more insights.
People from Mariupol and other cities in Ukraine arrived at the humanitarian center in Zaporizhia to receive food and first medical aid. The UN estimates the number of internally displaced people in Ukraine at nearly 6.5 million Ukrainian. President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that in Mariupol almost 100,000 people are trapped without food, water, electricity, and suffering from shelling by Russian forces.
We stayed at the basement for the last 2 weeks. We couldn't go out at all or cook. Shells were constantly flying in the yard, and one fell in a neighboring house. It was scary. We decided to get out at our own risk. We ran under shelling to the car. We could barely get there. Shells were landing near to us. It was very scary. Getting here was very difficult.
Citizens from Mariupol said that the Russian siege has left them struggling for food and without electricity, water, heat, or communications.
The vehicle was badly damaged. We managed to leave, and it's already great. We left alive. I walked among buildings, and there were about 10 cars burned at the same time. It was hell. What else can I say? It was hell.
Europe has not seen such a rapid influx of refugees since the Second World War. Some 90% of those who fled Ukraine are women and children. According to UNICEF, more than 1.5 million children are among those who fled.
The Ukrainian military claims that several missiles were fired towards Odessa on Thursday, but they missed their intended target. Ukraine's largest and most strategic seaport has been preparing for an all-out onslaught in expectation of local inhabitants taking mass action. Let's have a listen.
Hobby. I dance tango. Yes, I don't wish to fight or something else. No, it's not for me. I'm just a woman. But now every person in Ukraine, woman or man, and doesn't matter. We are fight. We need to fight.
This course takes place every day. There are no days off. We really don't know how much time we have before a Russian shelling hits Odessa. So we have tried to use all time we have to do as much as possible for our people. We don't teach military tactics. We just teach how to operate a gun and how to do that safely.
Ukraine has accused Russia of deliberately targeting hospitals, while Moscow still denies all accusations. But what is not in doubt is that increasing numbers of hospitals have been shelled and thousands of people died as health crews continue to be displaced to other areas away from the front lines. Osama Ayadi.
Since the start of the Russian military operation in Ukraine, authorities in Ukrainian frontline cities stated that hospitals have been bombed by Russian shelling several times. The World Health Organization says it has verified some 64 attacks on healthcare facilities in Ukraine since Russia began its military operation a month ago.
We try to help the people, and they throw bombs on our heads. Why? Why are they doing this to us? You can't do this. I have no words. Only emotions.
The confirmed shelling took place between February 24th and March 21st, at a rate of between 2 and 3 each day, killing at least 15 people, the WHO said in a statement. Ukraine has accused Russia of bombing hospitals and health facilities, including the children's and maternity hospitals in the besieged city of Mariupol, in what one city officials called a war crime without justification. On Wednesday, the United States said it had determined that Russia had committed war crimes in Ukraine, singling out the bombardment of Mariupol and the shelling of the maternity hospital. The 4-week military operation has also forced Ukraine to re-pursue hospitals to care for the wounded, disrupting the provision of basic medical services to the rest of the population. The World Health Organization stated that nearly 1,000 health facilities are close to the front lines or in areas of battles between forces. The organization also added that about half of the country's pharmacies are thought to be closed, with many healthcare workers displaced by fighting or unable to work.
The launch of the intercontinental ballistic missile drew a strong condemnation from Japan, the US, South Korea, and China. The launch is considered as a brazen violation of multiple UN Security Council.
North Korea has launched a ballistic missile, which is believed to be a new ICBM, and it landed Japan's exclusive economic zone, near the country's territorial waters. It's an outrageous, unforgivable act. Japan strongly condemns it.
The launch of a ballistic missile of intercontinental range by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea that took place today on March 24th. This is another breach of the DPRK's announced moratorium from 2018 on launches of this nature and a clear violation of Security Council resolution.
Anyway, today, once again, the world stood united. It stood united in the face of President Putin's unjustified and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Together, a strong majority of UN member states made clear that Russia bears sole responsibility for the grave humanitarian crisis and violence in Ukraine. Together,
North Korea has confirmed that it has conducted a test of new powerful type of intercontinental ballistic missile, ending a self-imposed ban on long-range missile testing that has been in place since 2017. The missile is said to have traveled 1,090 kilometers and reached a maximum altitude of 6,248 kilometers before colliding with a target in the sea. According to state media, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un personally guided the test of the Hwasong-17, the world's largest liquid-fueled missile launched from a road mobile launcher. Ethiopia's government has proclaimed an indefinite humanitarian ceasefire beginning immediately in order to speed up the delivery of critical aid to the Tigray area, where hundreds of people are facing hunger. Thousands have perished and millions have been displaced since war broke out in northern Ethiopia in November 2020, when the fighting spread from Tigray to the neighboring provinces of Amhara and Afar. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo and his ministers have had their salaries slashed by 30% as part of a budget cuts as the country grapples with increasing gasoline costs as a result of the Ukraine crisis and stalled work on a new tax, according to the administration. Foreign travel by government officials, save for vital missions, and the purchase of imported automobiles have been prohibited with immediate effect, according to Finance Minister Ken Ofor-Yuata. In Somalia, the leader of Hirshabelle State said the death toll from twin attacks has climbed to 48. The first attack in Hirshabelle's Beledweyne district was carried out on Wednesday night by a suicide bomber, leaving 2 local lawmakers killed, including Amina Mohammed Abdi and several of her guards as she campaigned for re-election. Only minutes later, a car bomb exploded outside Beledweyne's main hospital, where the injured were being taken for treatment. The incident caused dozens to be killed. Most public schools remain closed in Lebanon as teachers strike over salaries and poor working conditions. The situation in Lebanon is very difficult since the currency lost more than 90% of its value, affecting many areas and especially the quality of education. The educational sector is threatened as funding lacks, and particularly universities, as they are funded by the government. To the United States now, Donald Trump has sued Hillary Clinton alongside the other Democrats, alleging they attempted to undermine his 2016 presidential bid by linking him to Russia. Now the former president has launched legal action after repeatedly accusing the Democrats of undermining his campaign with a sprawling conspiracy to discredit him. The Arizona legislature on Thursday joined the growing list of Republican-led states to pass aggressive anti-abortion legislation as the conservative U.S. Supreme Court is considering ratcheting back abortion rights that have been in place for nearly 50 years. The House voted on party lines to outlaw abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, mirroring Mississippi law now being considered by the nation's High Court. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was praised by legal experts in her final day of Senate hearings on Thursday. A top lawyers group said their assessment found she has a sterling reputation, exceptional competence, and is well qualified to sit on the Supreme Court. Miriam Zian has more details.
As she seeks to become the first black woman on the United States highest court, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson wrapped up questioning days of about 30 hours of hearings. After 2 days of questioning by members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the American Bar Association, and other experts testified on Jackson's reputation.
Everyone we talked to, interviewed, or had substantive contact with uniformly gave the highest praise: brilliant, beyond reproach, first rate, patient, insightful, impeccable, A+.
Democrats are expecting for bipartisan support for President Joe Biden's historic choice, but Republicans have painted Jackson's 9 year on the federal bench as soft on crime. Alabama Attorney General Stephen Marshall reiterated the Republicans' concerns and said Jackson's supporters cite her as a voice for the vulnerable, but we should rather be interested in exploring whether her zeal is equally keen for another class of the most vulnerable.
Who are gravely concerned about the direction our country is heading as it relates to law and order. This committee is likely well acquainted with the wave of lawlessness that has swept across our nation over the past few years, leading to a surge in crime, including a horrific spike in homicides unseen since the 1990s.
The Senate Judiciary Committee is expected to vote on Jackson's nomination on April the 4th, as a minority opposes her.
The U.S. Department of State has announced that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit the Zionist entity, the occupied West Bank, Morocco, and Algeria in the coming days to discuss regional issues as well as the Russian special military operation in Ukraine. The department said on Thursday that Blinken's tour, set to take place from March 26th to the 30th, would begin in the Zionist entity and the West Bank and end in Algeria. North Macedonia knocked Italy out of qualifying on Thursday in one of the most surprising upsets in recent international soccer history. Although the qualification phase will not be completed until Scotland's game against Ukraine is resolved, a match that has been postponed due to Russia's recent military operation. Paths B and C will be decided this month with Poland, Sweden, the Czech Republic. North Macedonia's shock 1-0 win over Italy. North Macedonia celebrated their shock win over Italy with wild scenes in the dressing room, and fans lined the streets back home in Skopje as they move one win away from World Cup. Back to Algeria. This evening, Algeria faces Cameroon for the last qualification games of FIFA World Cup in Japuma Cameroon Stadium. There is palpable tension on the streets of Algiers ahead of Algeria's crucial 2022 World Cup qualifying tie against Cameroon, knowing that the two African heavyweights both missed the 2018 edition in Russia and are desperate to make an appearance in Qatar this November. And before we wrap up, here is a reminder of our top stories. An extraordinary meeting of NATO took place in Brussels. Joe Biden attended his first NATO summit since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, promised Ukraine with more help. Long queues for humanitarian aid in devastated Mariupol have been captured. The images show Russian soldiers providing humanitarian aid to the residents of the southeastern Ukrainian city, which has been heavily damaged after prolonged bombardment. North Korea has confirmed that it has conducted a test of new powerful type of intercontinental ballistic missile, ending a self-imposed ban on long-range missile testing that has been in place since 2017. Well, that's it for me and the rest of the English news team. Thank you for keeping it here on All 24 News. Till next time.